ANC's North West Interim Committee maintains that it followed all processes for the removal of Job Mokgoro as Premier of the province. This despite Deputy Secretary General Jesse Duarte telling Newzroom Afrika that the committee acted prematurely. Coordinator Hlomani Chauke says the process of finalizing the transition for Bushy Maape to take over as Premier is underway.
No, we have not jumped the gun as much as we understand ANC internal processes. We have done what we expected to do at the level of having to communicate a decision coming from the national structure, and we have spoken to Comrade Job, and our processes that currently are underway, in which we are now preparing for the exit of Comrade Job, and then and the implementation of making sure that Comrade Bushy then becomes the member of the legislature. We are busy with those internal processes currently. It's a process.
Still on the story, the North West Legislature has not yet received a resignation from outgoing Premier Job Mokgoro. Mokgoro is expected to tender his resignation from both the legislature and his position as Premier. The North West ANC IPC introduced Bushy Maape as the designate to replace Mokgoro. Our reporter Bafedile Moerane, who's been tracking the story, is live for us at the legislature. Bafedile, we wait to hear if we will be told by today, tomorrow, the end of the week, whether or not the Premier would have resigned.
Well, of course, yesterday when the IPC coordinator Hlomani Chauke was addressing us there, he indicated that the plan was to finalize everything, all the plans with the provincial legislature yesterday. But this morning, again, it's Wednesday, the legislature has not yet received the resignation letter to start with the processes of swearing in the new premier, or, of going to the votes. But anyway, I have here the acting secretary of the legislature, Bafedile Moerane, who is going to tell us more about the processes that need to be followed when they saw in the new premier. So, Bafedile Moerane, before we get into those processes, let's talk about you having to receive the letter. Have you received anything? Have you got any communication from Professor Job Mokgoro?
No, to date we have not received anything. This morning I was with the manager of the Office of the Speaker, and I asked him whether did we receive anything. There was nothing on the table to date.
So what exactly is expected to happen? Because we know that now the ANC has introduced the elect candidate who has to come now replace Professor Job Mokgoro at the legislature, as there's no space for him. The only time he can get into the legislature is when the Premier resigns. What processes are expected to be followed?
No, correct, like you say, the ANC will, as a party, will inform us, and the resignation letter will reach the Speaker. And once that the Speaker has received that, the Speaker will have to call in a sitting of all members, because you'll understand that the Premier has resigned. Members will sit and among themselves elect an acting Premier, because the cabinet now does not have a leader. After that, then the Speaker will also receive communique from the party, which informs her that they've got a vacancy. And the vacancy, the Speaker will then have to gazette the name. Like correctly you say, if we don't receive any correspondence from the Premier of his intention to resign, then there's no vacancy. That communication is now a party communication. They will have to tell us who is coming in after the Premier, in the presence of the Premier. Is it that they maintain their list, or are they intending to change the name? That's now a process between the party and the IEC. We from our side will expect that when we receive the gazetted name at the gazetted list of the IEC, to satisfy ourselves that the person who's coming in is the next person in line. From there, the Speaker will then inform the Chief Justice. This time around, it will be the Judge President in the province, of the intention of the parties to elect a new Premier. That process is a process of the Judge President. The Judge President will then tell us when is she intending to swear in the Premier. But understand that if it's somebody from outside and the list is changed, the Speaker will then swear in that member. It's a process of the legislature. And from there they can go into the process of electing their own Premier as a cabinet.
Well, of course, thank you so much, Bafedile Moerane. He is the acting secretary there, Bongiwe, telling us as to what exactly is expected to happen after the Premier Job Mokgoro tender his resignation as a member of the legislature as well in his position as the Premier. But up to this stage, he has not done that. We tried to get a hold of him, but his office is saying that he will only comment at the right time. Right now, he's still dealing with some issues, but we'll try to get him from here to hear what exactly is he planning to do, because as you heard, the ANC is releasing contrary statement when Jesse Juat is saying that this was premature, when on the other hand, the ANC in the province believes that all the protocols and steps have been followed. Bongiwe.
That's Bafedile Moerane, our reporter, just at the legislature, really taking us through the process that needs to unfold should the resignation come. But if it doesn't come right now, there is no vacancy. And that is really the position where we are in now. Whether or not the Premier will resign or will he not? Is he going to be stepping aside to allow the process, as we are being told that all boxes have been ticked, to unfold? We wait to even hear from him, as we've also tried to reach out to him just to see if he will be speaking about the developments then in the public domain, but he says he's not able to do so at the moment.